evening, everybody, and welcome to this February 11th regular meeting of the Board of Ed, call to order. Emergency exits we have on the left and the right and in the back. Virginia, would you do roll call for us?
Sure. William Ball.
Here.
Christina Bellarosa. Here. Katie Emerson Haas. Here. Bettina Irizarry. Here. Carrie Kelder. Here. Michael Meyer.
Here.
Jeffrey Ozzie.
Here.
Timothy Wells.
Here.
Meredith Mills. Here.
Okay. This is, I've never had to do this, but it's great. So I'm going to turn the floor over to our Saugerties High School Choir, who's going to perform the Star Spangled Banner. Thank you for being here tonight, ladies.
Yes.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I'd like to say a couple quick thank yous. My name is Grace Hawk. I am president of the Saugerties Senior High Choir. And quickly, I just wanted to say thank you to the Board of Ed for a fantastic music program. I'm currently in basically every single music class we have to offer, and I love it. And fun fact about me is that I'm currently auditioning for college, so I can go to school for college, school for music. That's it. That's what I want to say. And without our music program, I would not be nearly as prepared as I am for all my college auditions. I think I'd be a hot mess. But I am so well prepared thanks to our wonderful music program. So thank you.
I'm Sydney Caesars. I'm the choir secretary. I just really wanted to say thank you because I am a senior and I had a lot of stage fright, and so I joined our voice class in 10th grade, and I actually got to the point where this year I got to go to Area All-State, which was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had, and I'm just so grateful that I got the chance to go. So thank you.
My name is James McTagg. I'm a senior here at Saugerties High School, and I'm involved in a lot of music classes. But this year in particular, I managed to make the All-County, Area All-State, and the New York State NISMO All-State Choir with Chloe, which was just awesome. So I want to thank everyone here, the district, the board, for making that possible and for letting us go, I guess is a good way to put it. So thank you very much. And we are all excited to see what All County brings next year. So thank you very much.
And I'm Chloe. I wanted to thank you for bringing James and I to All-State. It was an incredible experience. But March is a huge month for music for us. So March 7th, 8th, and 9th, we have our musical Music Man. And then just after that, March 25th, we have our Pops concert. So just wanted to bring awareness for that. So thank you all. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Just show of hands, who's involved in musical?
Thank you for that performance, and thank you to Miss McDougall. Anything that she's involved in is fabulous. So thank you guys. Okay, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ursig, would you like to read our mission statement and vision statements, please?
Here in Saugerties, we provide equitable, engaging, inspiring, and holistic experiences that support success and empowerment for students, families, and the community in a diverse and changing world. Our vision is to become a beacon of educational excellence where every individual is inspired and able to achieve their fullest potential.
Okay, next up is approval of minutes of our regular meeting from January 14th. Can I have a motion for the minutes? Ms. Belrosa, second. Ms. Kelder, any discussion on those? All those in favor? All right. So we have a little change in our agenda going forward, and this was brought by Trustee Irizarry about moving some of our components up front in our presentations tend to run long. And so she had the suggestion of moving the public recognition, the first public recognition component up front, so that people could address the board in a more timely manner. So I wanted to take a minute in that as we're moving that, is just to give everybody and people who are online, as we're going into budget season, because that tends to be when we have more people address the board. This is for items that are on the agenda or have occurred since the last meeting that they want to talk about. And it is a address the board, right? So I just want to make clear that it's not a Q&A, it's not a back and forth. You know, there will be things that we'll take and go discuss then and maybe come back with a response at a later date, but it's not a Q&A type session. And we like to, as we go into the budget season and there's more, we want it to be kind of 3 minutes in length. But as you come up, address the board, your name, where you live, and then your topic that you want to talk, and that's about it. So I will turn it over to the public recognition. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the board, now is the time. And then there is another one. We've still maintained the same, another public recognition session at the back of the agenda, which is a shorter period, but can be for anything that you want to discuss. Okay. There is none. Next up, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Mills for our student report.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, right there.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to congratulate Science Olympiad. They're heading to states, and we look forward to hearing more from them. The high school building leadership team is meeting February 13th at 2:30 p.m. in the high school library. Attention to all seniors and families of seniors. It's post-secondary financial aid season, and please contact the school counseling center with any questions. Information will also be provided in the weekly newsletter sent home by Ms. Molyneux. Spring sports sign-ups open February 17th. Sign up on Family ID. And like Chloe said, the high school is putting on a production of The Music Man that will be shown in the high school auditorium March 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's all I have for you.
All right. Thank you. Presentations and honorings. We have up our senior high principal, Ms. Shannon Molyneux, and her team for a Saugerties Senior High School update. Ms. Molyneux, the floor is yours. Or I should say the chair now.
The chair?
The chair.
I'm not sure. You're free to stand as long as you wish. Am I on? I can't see. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. All right, so I'm not sure that I can commit to sitting, but we're going to give this a go. Okay? I like the new setup, by the way. It's very nice. Okay. I also sometimes fight with the mouse, so just bear with me here. So the first slide that you'll see when this comes up is actually the vision and the mission statement, but since Dr. Ersick actually just read that, I'm actually not going to go through that. And I'll give you a little bit of background of what this presentation, how this presentation was created. So far, as we all know, I've been here for a few months now, right? 2, 3. And What I'm giving you tonight is kind of what our team has done so far that's aligned to the blueprint, Dr. Sick's strategic plan, the blueprint for excellence. And so I picked and pulled out the things that we're focusing on with the blueprint aligned to the district goals, and that's what you'll see in here tonight, okay? With a couple other sprinklings in. So first up, I'm gonna go with the student experience, and just for kind of the same reasoning that we were talking about, just maybe moving up the public comments, I have students here to present regarding an ELNA project that they've been working on, and it's better to hear from them than it is to me, so they're actually gonna kick us off. I'd like to bring up Thomas Brandon.
You got it? Way to go. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, it comes right out of here. Will.
Alright, thank you. Alright, I'm Thomas. I'd like to thank Ms. Molyneux and the board for having us. I'm Thomas Brandon, and my team was Maverick Napolitano, Owen Hobb, and Andre Conix. Mr. Ferraro came to speak to our broadcast journalism class in January to ask us to make a video for their website. He explained about the history of the company and what they create. Make parts for defense systems for companies like Raytheon to make signal jammers for Navy planes and parts for satellite communications. He also talked about the company's involvement in the community through their Boys and Girls Club golf tournament and Christmas in the Village and historic car show. Boston is here to describe our pre-production process.
Thank you, Thomas. Hello, everyone. I'm Boston, and my team was Rowan Covert, Olivia Avalone, and Gabby Aguilar. After hearing what Elna wanted, we created a vision board with our ideas for how we wanted to envision their video. We invited Mr. Ferraro back, who is their boss, and we presented our vision to him in Studio 217. We included interviews with employees, B-roll of operations within the facility, and a tour of the facilities led by Mr. Ferraro. We also suggested including stats from the Bureau of Labor Statistics about the need for engineers, designers, and CNC operators. Ian will explain his team's on-site production process now.
Good evening, I'm Ian Cooper. My team was Will Fiscaletti and Kira Talani. The whole class did a site visit to Elna and met the owners, Mr. Ferraro, his father, Mr. Ferraro, and John Rossner. One team gathered B-roll footage throughout the facility, and then we all followed Mr. Ferraro for a guided tour around the facility and watched workers in action. One of our classmates is employed there, and he showed us the creation process. One team conducted interviews in their conference room, and Thomas will describe the interview process.
I'm still Thomas, and I led the interview. Several employees volunteered to be interviewed about their role in the company and opportunities for training and advancement. We set up our camera, microphone, and lighting equipment in their conference room. We then gave each person the questions to review ahead of time and try to help them not to be nervous. And they were all helpful, and the interviews went really well. We'll begin editing the video. He'll explain the process and give you a sample. So here's one.
I'm William Fiscaletti, and our ultimate goal was to create a short video for them to upload to their homepage that shows what they do, that they are a good employer, and that they are community-minded. This is just a rough cut of the footage we've edited together so far.
It's a very relaxed atmosphere. Not generally do you come in
The audio is not
something
working.
is coming completely.
Is there buttons on the board itself?
So it's coming through our TriCaster now. It's kind of plugged
It's a very
to you.
So if everybody logs on their phone, what's YouTube? It'd be this.
Try that.
Try that.
Yeah. All right, then try the other one then, if it's just speakers.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Well, it's muted anyways.
Okay. Try that. turn this one off, and it might work.
We'll see.
Press play again. Let's see.
Try again.
It's
It's
muted
like
now. Try again.
beautifully.
Try to unmute it. Oh yeah. Sorry. It's good. You're good.
Is that because the meeting's on your camera?
Yeah.
Could turn the Google Meet off.
Yeah, can we try the other option?
Trying to mute the
Go
tab.
back to that for a
Should
second.
we get out of Google Meet and then?
Do you want me to turn the Meet?
Yeah.
I think that'll work. All right. Oh, is it all the way up?
Yep.
All right, start it, roll it back.
It's as loud as it'll go.
Maximize it. Got it. There you go.
Thank you.
It's a very relaxed atmosphere. Not generally do you come in and something is coming completely out of left field for you. You kind of know what to expect, but it still is always fresh.
I came in with no knowledge, but I have learned a lot.
I had no knowledge whatsoever. I didn't know anything about manufacturing or CNC.
Some qualities I would say to a potential employee that you need is you need to be hardworking, dedicated, and definitely versatile.
Versatility. You need to be very flexible, and you have to be have a lot of communication.
My favorite part of Elma is the atmosphere, to be honest. It feels like a nice big family. Many of the employees have been here a long time. We have many employees that have been here 20 plus years, some 30 plus years. So it's like you come home every morning.
I got training from basic manufacturing skills, CNC programming, all the way up to leadership skills.
I have gotten hands-on on-the-job training. I'm also in the apprenticeship program, which allows me to take classes at SUNY Ulster or BOCES.
It's a very good company to work for, and the people here are very nice. We get along like a family, so we're here most of the time together, so we're like a family here.
My favorite part about my job is definitely the people that I work with and the people that I work for.
I think that manufacturing in general is seen as kind of a dirty work environment. It's not. I hope this video today shows that you can make a career out of manufacturing.
What's your favorite part about your job here?
Coming to work. I love my job.
Thank you.
Our deadline for the complete rough cut is February 28th. And after that, we'll invite Mr. Ferrero back to the school to screen the video, and he'll give us feedback, and then we'll make adjustments. When it's complete, we'll share it with you, and thank you for all of your interest in the project and staying here through all the technical difficulties.
It's on. We're good? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna give this a go over here. I don't know if I can sit.
We need to rejoin the meet.
Yes. You did already? Okay. Okay, so Elna Magnetics and the group that's working on that. And I have to be honest with you, that was one of the very first, I actually think I attended that meeting before I actually started in this position. And to see and hear the conversations that were going on, and then to see it actually be translated into the classroom, and then to see their excitement, and then to see them put that together. So for me, that's what it's all about, and that's a company that's right here in our community that I've lived here for, I mean, I grew up here, and I don't even know if I really fully understood what that company was. So many thanks to everybody involved. Okay, so here we go. So like I said, I outlined the presentation to, hold on 1 second. How do I get it to play? I feel like I need a I know, but I don't know how to move it. Oh, I could have just walked over. Thank you, Dr. Ursik. Okay, so like we said, it was better if I was sitting during that. All right, so vision and mission, Dr. Ursik just read this, so I'm just gonna fast forward here. So the student experience, you just heard from the students presenting about Elna Magnetics. Another thing that I wanted to highlight kind of along this and just getting student voice and involvement involved. So our Eco Club, they're currently working on a recycling initiative, and there's many exciting parts about this, but one of the things was talking about the recycling that's actually occurring in the building. And what we did was our new director of facilities, Richie Prince, actually we set up a meeting with Eco Club, Mr. Scala, students, and we discussed, hey, this is the need, this is what we would like to do, this is the end goal, which is obviously recycle more than we actually are. And out of that meeting, Mr. Prince actually spoke with his crew. They came up with, there was a couple classrooms that didn't actually have recycle bins, and then we came up with a plan to actually monitor the recycling, and now Eco Club, in combination with Mr. Robinson's class, is actually working on a campaign initiatives to kind of promote the recycling. So a lot of times with people, this is what I learned out of this, is a lot of the items landing in our recycling bin are like half full Dunkin' Donuts coffees. So then that whole bin kind of gets destroyed. So a lot of great stuff happening, and I'm looking to see, you know, where that actually goes. So more for the student experience. Improvements to scheduling process, you're gonna hear from Mrs. Hellman in a little bit. She'll go in a little bit more detail about this. But one of the things that we really focused on was increasing student voice, student choice, and parent guardian involvement with the actual scheduling process. So you've probably seen, if you're getting the notification, some of you, the communication that's going out to families. We sent out new sheets, and I'm gonna let Mrs. Hellman talk about that more. For student engagement, so Dr. G introduced us to the engagement continuum for our students. And you've probably heard this, I think, a couple of times, but the coolest part for me is actually seeing it happening. So I have teachers that are creating their own self-reflection sheets that their students are actually gauging their own level of engagement. And you hear people talking about this. And then the most recent one that I saw is we have a classroom that actually has a driving board. And on that board, the students are actually writing how they are driving their level of engagement and kind of reflecting and just the awareness of it. And then I'm actually hearing it, you know, when I have meetings with faculty or even staff, they're having conversations with me about their focus on engagement, and I think we always have, but now it's centered around that common language. So the terms are actually taking over, and we're all kind of speaking the same language there. So for attendance, you know, you've heard about our support teams before, cohort teams, they're still in the works and they're still flourishing, right? We meet weekly, we review students, we talk about attendance. For me, it's about getting to the why, and I think for most of the teams, so not just this kid isn't coming, why isn't this student coming? What's actually happening? What supports do we need? Contact home, hey, how can we help you? Oh, it's this? Okay, maybe we can help with this. Or maybe something's going on. So getting to the why of that and really trying to figure out what we can do there. And then re-entry meetings. So it's big when students happen to be out for consecutive days, whether it be for discipline or it's just for any reason that they're out for consecutive days. We really focus on our re-entry plan for them. So we don't want people to just come back to the building. You know, like kids are curious, right? So they're gonna ask each other, where were you? What's going on? So we meet with them, we kind of, you know, hey, are we okay to go back into the building? Are you ready to go? And we kind of prepare, let's come up with a phrase in case somebody asks you a question that, you know, you don't want to share your business sometimes, right? So those re-entry meetings are big for us. Moving forward, things that I would like to see is, this is the restorative piece coming out for me with attendance circles. I have previous experience where I was able to identify the reason why maybe attendance was not so great for some. And then I was able to also see that maybe multiple kids had the same type of reason. And then I was able to put them into what we called an attendance circle. And that became this group where students connected over the fact that they maybe struggled with something or they had something in common. And that circle became their own student support network. So my hope is to bring that to this level at this time. And then attendance letters. I think this is a practice that we have. I think it's been a little bit inconsistent. So for me, I'd like to, we're actually kind of working on that now, bringing that back. I think it's important that people understand and know you might be away on vacation and it's an approved absence, like the school knows about it, it's not something that's detrimental, but it's still an absence. So you're still taking away from the learning and the class time and the engagement piece. And so regardless of the reason, it's still absences. And I think sometimes we lose sight of how many times that actually occurs over a semester or a full year. Okay, academic excellence is the next district goal in the blueprint. So community partners, so you just heard one of the community partners that we have, and I think that's just kind of setting the tone, setting the bar pretty high for more community partners and connections to come, but this is kind of where we're going with that, right? These are the kinds of things that we want our students to be doing. And I think, I don't know if it was shared, but there's actually talk about that video actually making it to ELNA's website and actually being there for that information purposes. So I think that's pretty amazing what you guys are doing. College partnerships. So I know Dr. G and I are working closely on this, and others as well. And you know, we're working with Siena College for computer science. We're working with University of Albany for science research. The goal is to create different pathways and to see what else we can bring there, right? Internships. So this is in the beginning stages for me. I've randomly over like the course of the last 2 weeks, I've had multiple people and companies reach out to me about internships for our students. So I know that's part of our blueprint, and it was just strange timing. And so for me, we're just starting the conversation. What does that look like? Is that something that we can do? If we do, how do we run that? How do we get in it? So when I tell you it's literally the beginning stages, that's exactly what it is. We're just kind of exploring around. What can we do? Like I said, complete beginning stages, but hopefully something can come out of that. So master scheduling. When I think about academic excellence, I think that our master schedule really has to be a representation of what we truly, envision for. It has to represent our overall vision, mission of what we're trying to do. And we've said this before, it has to be a statement of our values. I think that this is nothing, the work that's been done on the master schedule is tremendous. I am so excited. This is like how my brain works. This is like a big puzzle for me. But I'm so excited to actually wrap my brain around this for the first time and kind of get into it and see, and then look for, are there areas that we can improve to really make sure that this is working for us at the high school level? Is it really a statement of what we value, right? So for me, some of the things that I'm running into right now is I hear in informal conversations, maybe I had to choose between 2 classes because they were offered at the same time. Okay, so I'm looking at why were they offered at the same time? I'm meeting with department chairs. What classes can't compete with each other? What has worked in the past for your department? Maybe what is something that we have to tweak? What classes compete? That kind of thing. And conflicting courses. When I first came, we were meeting with department chairs and we were reviewing, this is going to Mrs. Vale, I know she's here tonight, but I kind of picked up and just started running along under her wing with the review of course offerings. So Mrs. Vale was leading the initiative with department chairs as far as, hey, let's take a look at what we offer. Let's take a look at if there's anything we need to change, do we need to add? And then you'll hear more about the course offerings by grade level, again, with Mrs. Hellman. Restorative practices, so you've heard some of it already for me with the attendance circle, and if I've presented to you before, you've heard me and where I stand kind of with restorative practices. So we are using them, right? And they show up in various ways. I had one of my first, I'll call it a high level tier 3 circle with students that maybe things weren't going very well for. And I'll be honest with you, I had one really successful meeting, and then I had one I was like, okay, that probably could have gone a little bit better. I don't think I read the room of what we were ready for, even though we asked. But again, learning, right? We have teachers using them to check in. I had a teacher tell me, Mr. Robinson, he actually said to me, he said, I'm doing circles with my students Monday mornings, and he said, I can't believe what I'm learning about them and how it's impacting my teaching. So just to hear a statement made like that, it's just so powerful for me. So again, moving forward.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
On the master scheduling thing, is
Yep.
part of the discussion there the large amount of late entry and early exit that we've had over the last few years, which I've been told that impacts some courses because
Yes.
kids simply aren't there to take the courses, so we drop classes that other kids would like to take, and
I would also say that enrollment of certain courses depends on when it's scheduled in the day. So it might not necessarily be late entry, early release. It might be we are deciding on our own that we have late entry, I'll put it. Or maybe maybe it's not fully approved. But I think that is definitely another level that we're looking at too. And for me, it is like strategic, right? So if, like, I think of the students that are required to come in on buses, right? They're not driving themselves yet, right? So then we talk about those classes being earlier. I need more information on how everything works together.
thank you.
But yes, to answer your question, yes. And like the time of day, for sure.
I would just also add too, right, our vision is to make sure we still reach our potential, right? So are we saying it's the expectation that everybody should leave high school with a college level course, right? A dual enrollment course, right? So how do we promote that and change that culture?
And since you brought that up too, along with the changes and like the improvements we're making in our counseling department, I think, and you know, Mrs. Vale is always saying this, do we really aim for our students, our seniors, to have only 22 credits, the bare minimum, or are we really kind of trying to push forward and have a little bit more before they actually leave us? So thank you for that. Where are we? Peer tutoring. So this is something I'm hoping we can expand upon. Right now, I know that Mrs. Elia works and she's working with a few volunteers that are actually just focused on our English as a second language learners and having students work with other students to, you know, help with Regents prep. But that is an area that I hope to kind of improve and be a little bit more consistent with. Okay, and that leads us to Ms. Tefino, project-based learning.
Hi, Chelsea DeFino. I am the assistant principal for 9th grade at the high school, and I'm also leading our Plan Pilot initiative right now. And I thank the students who presented today because it's a perfect example of what the Plan Pilot aims to do and what project-based learning is. Before coming to Saugerties, I worked in a project-based school, so this is kind of where my background is. Dr. G applied for us to be a part of the Plan Pilot program. So there are 23 other high schools in New York State who are participating in this. And basically we're doing action research for the state about how different graduation pathways could work. Right now students have to sit for Regents exams in order to graduate for the most part. And we're looking to see if there are other ways that students can demonstrate competency. So you just saw students present a video where they had to make a video, they had to interview people, they're making a documentary, they're learning how a business works, they're collaborating together as a group, right? That's much higher level work than a standardized test is able to demonstrate. So we're hoping to show that that kind of learning and student demonstration of standards can be applicable across all content areas. So right now we have 5 teachers who are in our Plan Pilot cohort, 2 from ELA, 2 math, and a social studies teacher. And their job this year is to just try one project-based learning unit that they're gonna share with our community at the end of the year. Dr. G and I and Mrs. Milano have been working closely with this group of teachers all year. We do professional development at least once a month for either a full or half day to coach them on their projects. And I will say a lot of the teachers in this group are going above and beyond that one project. I have some people who are fully changing their classes over to a project-based model. So it's been really, really great. And to brag about us a little bit, every time we meet with the other schools in New York State, they're like, please tell us what you're doing and how you're doing it and help us. So it's awesome work. This is just a map so you can see the other project-based planned schools in the area. So like I said, we're one of 23. And what's super exciting looking at this is we're really the only school in the Hudson Valley that is a part of this work. So it's super, super exciting, and we will continue collecting data and adding to our group over the next 3 years.
Can I just ask a
ask you about?
Sure.
So it looks like we are a orange dot, which would make us focus area A, career and technical education and work-based learning, but are we doing focus C?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we have a lot of flexibility in what career and technical education is. So students working together on a group project where they're conducting interviews and making a video for a business, that's career and technical education, even though it's maybe not formally work-based experience. So we're having all of our teachers incorporate some sort of collaborative or work-based skill into their projects.
But it's not just for CTE.
Exactly,
kids,
yeah.
right? Okay, that
And
was.
they're aware.
Yep,
Yes.
yep, great.
And this is just from NICEAD, but this is where we're at in the plan pilot phases. So we are in the initial implementation phase. Like I said before, this will be a 3-year process. So right now we have a cohort of 5 teachers. We're hoping to expand that group as the years go on and continue building capacity so that we can have more and more project-based work going on in our school. And working in the junior high, I'll just say this has had an amazing trickle-down effect to the entire building, not just the high school, and we have a lot of other teachers very excited to get involved. So it's really been a great experience. I can now turn it over to Ms. Heilman, who will talk a little more about counseling.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Heilman, for those who don't know me. I'm one of the high school counselors and department chair. I also just want to throw out, I really love coming to board meetings. I try to come as much as I can because like I get to see my students in such a different light. Like half of the choir were my students, and then I had 2 students who were presenting for Elna. So like I know what they're doing, but I don't always get to see them in action. So that was really cool. I tried going to sporting events. I tried going to everything because it is so cool to watch them really flourish in the things that they love. These are our counselors. So we do have a new part-time elementary counselor. She floats in between all 3 schools. I'll go over a little bit of that in one of the slides. Her name is Jolie Zara, and she's doing awesome. I actually saw her today with our 6th graders who came up for the tour, which I'll go over that too. We have Melissa Johanovich. She's our grade 7 and part of grade 8. Seth Toman, he's grade 8 and part grade 9. Dr. Catalano, he's grade 9 and all of grade 10. And myself, grade 11. And Miss Madden, who's grade 12 right now. So this year, we decided to try something new to get a lot more student involvement, engagement, also with parents. So we created these course selection sheets, which are that on the next slide. Did we add that in there? Okay, so I will get you guys one of those sheets. But what it looks like is it has all of our courses listed by department, and what we did is all the department chairs and myself worked really closely. We went through, we highlighted for each grade what they can take. So for instance, an 8th grader going into 9th grade, their sheet was highlighted yellow. So every course that they could take was highlighted in yellow. If it wasn't highlighted, it means that they just can't take it yet. Maybe they don't have the prerequisites. 10th grade, a little bit more gets highlighted. I think theirs was green. Going into 11th grade was pink, and then going into 12th grade was blue. Obviously 12th grade, almost everything was highlighted. Of course, there's still prerequisites that they might not have gotten, but we tried to make it as easy as possible for students to see how many courses they could take. We have started getting these back, which is really cool. This is my 3rd time scheduling here. And I've had so many more students involved in the process. Like we meet one-on-one, but often they're like, I don't know, I don't really care, put me in whatever. And like, that's not fun for me. I don't wanna just put them in classes because then come September, they're like, I don't wanna be here, take me out. And then we have to find a new solution. So we definitely have increased their voice. And since I'm going to probably have seniors, or at least if I follow this group, I have a lot of kids who are in like 6 or 7 classes. Like they want to be here, they want to take certain classes. So the hope is that early release and late entry, hopefully there won't be as many, or they won't be leaving at 10 o'clock or whatever it is. That's the hope. And I did tell them, at least from my point of view, if they're going to higher education, they're into math and a science. So we're going way beyond that 22 credits.
because they need to be set up to be successful. So hopefully these students have been bringing these course selections home. That is the whole purpose. They had a whole week, and actually we gave them a couple extra days with the snow day and 2-hour delays, to go home and talk to their parents. Some might have, some might not have. This is obviously just the beginning process, and we're hoping each year to get better and better, but obviously in the beginning stages of that, really to get all that involvement. We did push into classrooms as counselors, so everyone grade 7 to 11, we went into their humanities classes, we presented on this, we went over a little bit about the course descriptions, how to read it, how to fill out the course selection sheet to bring it home, and so on. We just started collecting those back and putting them in the computer, and we're going to start meeting one-on-one if we haven't already. The website is up to date with these course selection sheets, so you can actually see those right now if you wanted to look them up. I also worked with Megan Wright, and we have them in Spanish as well, and highlighted accordingly. We are working on the course description guide in Spanish, but it's very, very long, so it is taking a little bit of time. Okay, so the next plan, so once we have all the courses in and we meet one-on-one with students, the goal is April 1st to meet with everybody. We are then going to send home a letter to parents in May that is going to say all the courses that the students selected. So not only are they seeing the courses before the students meet with us, they're also going to get a letter home that has all the courses that the student actually picked with us and that we have in the computer. And the hope is that we're going to ask that they return them signed. We're also going to have our counselor information on there so they know how to contact us if there's any questions. And also we created a new email, it's SHS Counseling Center, where we're sending out FAFSA information, we're sending out scholarships, any information that the Counseling Center has that can be helpful to parents and students. We blind copy on everything, and we send that out. It also has all the counselors' names, who they're responsible for on their caseload, and how you can contact us. And then the plan is after the first letter goes home, a second letter will go home after, was it going to be after Regents? Is that what we were planning? We're going to try to plan it for after Regents, so after we get the final grades of students, so that we can put in if they happen to fail a class. We're going to obviously have to go in and change the schedule and put in that repeat of the class, or if they need to take a Regents exam. So the a second letter will be sent home. So again, lots of parent involvement. We really want student and parent input. And then the actual schedules will become live in August as normal.
I just want to reemphasize, as Ms. Malano stated earlier, right? This is all really from the blueprint work, from the community feedback as to what they wanted to see from the student experience. So thank you for making it happen.
Yeah. And then a little 6th grade update. So we have some really awesome things happening. So this bulletin board, Ms. Zara had 6th graders at Morris help her create. So she's getting super involved with them. She has lunch bunch groups going, social skills, and she's working K through 12. So she's doing some attendance meetings, character traits. She's pushing into classrooms as much as she can. She only has about 2 hours at each school, so she's doing, again, as much as she can. We will be doing 6th grade transition. She'll be doing the 6th grade scheduling going into 7th grade. We just had our first tour day today for 6th graders. So they came in, I believe it was Riccardi. Riccardi came in and they meet in the auditorium. Ms. Bale gives a nice little speech to them and presentation, and then they get a tour by Ms. Chahanovich and Mr. Toman today. They got to see the school, they got to see a little bit of everything. They saw the redirect center. They went to the library, had a presentation from Ms. Millinson. I did go up there myself to help answer any questions that they had. Then they go back to the auditorium where they get a panel of students that was selected with specific questions so that they're hearing it from the kids. Oh, your thing is falling. The kids answer questions that were pre-selected so that they're not just hearing adults talk at them, to get a little bit more involvement that way. And then Cahill's tomorrow, and Morris will be on Thursday, and then in May we're going to have our shadow day where it's one-on-one with students, and they actually go about a half a day until lunchtime with the students. And Ms. Zara was here today. So she got to be a part of that, so that she also sees what it's like at the junior high, so that she can help prepare kids better. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I just realized I can't see far away or up close, so bear with me here.
Yeah, question?
Yeah.
Question. From Ms. Highland, where could we find that on the website?
Oh, so if you go to the counseling center,
Okay.
it should be under if you do course description, it should be on the right hand side, all along the side. It should like say grade 9, grade 10.
Okay.
Did it show up or?
Do you want to go show her?
Okay.
Okay for me to continue as we do that? Yes. Okay. All right, so we're looking at some Regents exams here. June 2024 and January 2025. And for January 2025, I gave you ELA at the bottom here. So a couple things that I'd like to highlight first, so some of the positives that are standing out to me is if you look all the way to the right, you'll see some of those mastery numbers. So particularly I'm looking at 55% for ELA in January, which is when we take that exam. I'm looking at the 31%, the 43% for living environment and global, if I'm reading that correctly. Living environment and physics, I'm sorry. So for me, you know, looking at the mastery is just as important to me as when we're looking at the at-risk part. Some areas that I think we need to grow in as far as like if we're just looking at test scores, I'm looking at Algebra 1, I'm looking at Earth Science, Geometry, and Living Environment. I just picked, so 85% or better is mastery, right? So for me, when I look at this, also I have a math background, right? So I can really go down the rabbit hole when it comes to data. I had to kind of like pull back a little bit just based on where I am as far as being in the building. Go ahead.
So the average,
Yes.
just take the top line, that's 68.5.
Yes.
That's the average for the 208 that took the test.
The passing.
Oh, of the passing.
Oh, actually, no, you're correct. It's the 208. I'm sorry, you're correct, yeah.
Got it.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's a point for me. So for some of those exams, we have high passing rates, which is a positive, right? So for instance, if you look at Algebra 2, we have a 95% pass rate. Then I start to look at, well, what is the average test score for that, right? So even within a high success rate and a high passing rate, I think there's still room when we can look to grow to see what is our average score. So is our average score low in the 60s? So there was ones like even, you know, Algebra 1, we have to look at entirely. But if you go to, well, any of them, even if you look at chemistry, so we have a 93% pass rate, and then our average score is a 74. So part of what I would like to look at and just kind of talk with and learn more about is getting into our actual test scores. And then, you know, the mastery piece, of course we would like to see that increase just as much, right? So a lot of times we spend a lot of time focusing on the at-risk students and the students that we need to, you know, get to pass an exam. For graduation requirements, but at the same time we have to make sure that we're balancing it out and we are working to support the students that might be, you know, in the 80, 82 range and they could easily hit an 85, 90 and bring that up a little bit as well. So like I said, you know, data for me is something that I think is in the districts, I should say this too, one of the coolest things about being in this position, which I'm so grateful for, you have no idea. But I can bring, like, seriously, I have a lens now of all areas of the district, I feel. I've been at all levels, right? And I feel like that really just helps me kind of hone in. I see the full picture, and I get so excited sometimes because I'm like, oh, this is what it looks like at the elementary level, and now this is what it looks like here. Or this is what I know we were trying to do with our cabinet, and this is what we were talking about, and now I know how it looks like here, what the end result's gonna be. So I know that we've talked a lot about bringing data more to the forefront and kind of having those conversations with more people. And I'm just looking forward to that. So when I look at these again, you know, there is a lot of stuff that you can kind of get into when you look at these, but the big ones that stand out for me are always, let's focus on the at-risk, what do we need to bring up? And then also on the upper side, you know, how can we bring our higher performing students up even higher, okay? Any questions on data? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, you mentioned you look at data, is there any trends that you can see from the past couple of years?
So that's,
going up or down?
I don't have that, outlook just yet. When I started to get into it, I really started to like overwhelm myself, right? And because I can easily go down a rabbit hole, but that is something that my plan is. So like, my hope is that the next time I'm presenting to you, I have more of a lens on the actual trend, right? So is that 68% rate for Algebra 1 that I'm kind of saying we need to improve? Is that normal? Is that where we usually fall, or is that just happened to be June of this year? So that is stuff that I'll plan to look at. Anything else? Okay, so next is AP scores. So I'm not gonna go through line by line. You're still on Regents. But again, just the same reasoning that I had for Regents exams, I would apply to the AP scores here. Thing that's a little bit different here is not everybody that actually enrolls. So the next slide, I should have reversed these. The next slide is actually AP enrollment, but not everybody that's enrolled in AP actually sits for the exam. So I cannot wait to kind of look at this a little bit further and kind of get to what's actually happening. We should be scoring 3 and above on these exams.
So those columns are the scores that they could be getting.
Yes.
And the total number you took them
Yes.
at the end. Okay.
So like for English language and comp, 7 people scored a 1. And then for that same exam, we have 1 person with a 5, 4 getting a 4, and so forth and so on. And then that column all the way to the right is just the total there. But then if like you look at the next slide here, so Mr. Martelli had, I think in his presentation, he was talking about the change in students enrolled in AP. So I put the numbers on the side over there so you can see from 23, 24 to 24, 25. To me, there's no consistent pattern. So I'd be curious to know what's actually happening, like why aren't we taking them? And honestly, I think part of it goes back to the time of day that they're offered. I would argue that's part of it. But that's the kind of stuff that, you know, I just need more information on and have to look into.
Yeah, and the part particularly with advanced placement in college dual enrollment courses is also demographics, right? So
Right.
males taking it, females, students with special education needs, right? So how are we across the board?
Yep. Any questions there?
No, it'd be just interesting to sort of see the, you know, the trend, like the previous slide, in sort of graphic form of what does that look like, right? And then to sort of see do those scores change over time.
Okay, we can work on that.
On the you don't have to go back, but like, are we, is it a concern, and maybe this is what Mike was talking about, like trends, like I look, you know, geography up there, only one person, that's only one person took the exam.
I'd have geography,
Human
standalone, independent study. So there are students that can take the exam but not actually sit for the course. And that would be the independent study part. And I actually think we have one coming up for this administration also. It's a different exam though.
Got it, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I'm learning so much about AP exams, so I'll tell you.
Mr. Ball.
Shannon, you alluded to this. I know you mentioned you're going to look into this, and a lot of this stuff is new, you know, arriving at your desk in terms of data. But, you know, definitely when I look at like bio, for instance, and environmental science, 2 sciences, right? But the number of students that actually sat for the test as opposed to the number of students that enrolled, particularly in the sciences, you know, why would we be doing that? You know what I mean? And what are the reasons kids aren't choosing to take the exam, but they are choosing to take the class?
That's what I'm after.
Because it costs money.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's kind of 2 things. One is it costs money, and then 2 is some colleges do not necessarily honor it. If depending on the school they go to, they might not recognize it as getting credit for it. So they want the challenge, but they don't necessarily see the benefit of taking the test.
Yeah.
So as far as, I mean, as far as the cost, do we have any kind of a tuition program assistance for kids?
So students who eat
Like that should be
free or
a
reduced, it is a reduced price, I'm pretty sure. We have to just go and verify it. We did look into it a couple of years ago to see what dollar amount it would be. I think around $20,000 sticks in my mind, but we could calculate it for sure.
And I think sometimes kids don't know that they're not going to have to pay for it. Like even if they're on free and reduced lunch, they don't have that in their head. Like, I'm not free and reduced lunch, I'm going to get a less. And so they hear that there's a price for it. And it's, I mean, I know at least 2 kids who continue to do that. But I think also schools because some schools that do accept it will only accept it if you get a 4 or 5.
Right, it's not necessarily
it's like, well,
3.
I see Ms. Vale wanted to chime in, so.
Come on, Ms. Vale.
I just know that we added credits to those courses as well, so if you're an AP Bio student, you can also choose to get the SUNY credits from AP Bio. So some students are going for the credits over the AP credits, and it actually counts as 2 college courses. Just having, my daughter did that for US History as well. So AP US History, there are 2 courses that marry to that, and you're sitting in the AP US History class, but it does have the credits as well.
And that's easier to transfer.
It's a, like a SUNY transfer, they are accepted.
There is a fee with those too.
Yes, there is.
Again, free reduced is reduced.
Can I hear how the independent study AP works?
You could if I could answer it. I'll have to get back to you.
Okay.
Ginger, do you know?
What, I didn't
The
hear.
independent study?
How it works? I think you challenge the exam. Jamie left, but I think she would have more knowledge to that. But I think you can look into challenging any AP exam, and you just have to submit it to the AP board. How that goes, it might even be on the website, Sakina, for challenging an AP exam.
And I actually, this just came up for me today because I learned that we have a student taking an exam and I can't think of the exam right now. And I was like, oh wow, I was like, that's actually pretty impressive. This student wants to sit for this exam, take it, and they're not actually taking the course. So I'll get back to you. Good, I like this. This is like group support here. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so another pillar, another district goal is family and community engagement. Always it's on top of everybody's list to kind of increase, right? So the more I talk to people, the more I hear of areas that maybe we can improve upon. So I'm just making a list and just kind of going through them one by one. I always welcome input. The weekly newsletter, also known as the WAG, Week at a Glance. So I try to send that out weekly. There's going to be times that I'm probably missing things, just let me know. And then overall communication, just in general, is just what I was talking about. It's always a goal to increase the communication, but I encourage it to be 2 ways, right? So I'm encouraging anybody that has a question, please just pick up the phone and call one of us. Just call the main office, we'll get you to where we need to go. I just need that to kind of be broadly shared. There's a lot of times that things come to me and I don't know about them until kind of like it's too late. So I just encourage 2-way communication there. You don't have to wait for somebody to call you. It'd be nice if that was the first thing all the time, but sometimes it's not. BLT, you heard Meredith mention that before. Our first meeting is February 13th at 2:30, and the time is gonna fluctuate, depends on who actually comes, and as a group we'll come up with the best time for that. We do have students participating in that. And then Power of the Positive, so this is a big one for me. I like to focus on the positive, right? So we have many families in our district that don't always know the good things that are happening for their kids in school, right? So I'm encouraging, it's been topic of our conversation, and I have actually heard different faculty, staff, even admin say, I'm gonna try to make this extra phone call today for something positive. I've seen, so we'll talk about it in a minute, but I do exit tickets for our teaching and learning meetings. They used to be known as our faculty meetings. So on there, I'm asking faculty and staff, what are you going to do? What's one of your goals this week? And they talk about making positive calls. So when you hear me say power of the positive, it's in all aspects, but really for me, it's just making sure we're communicating home those great things. We're not just having parents that are maybe always getting those, all right, what happened now? It's no, this was a great day. I saw your boy hold the door open for somebody, those kinds of things.
And I can attest, I actually got one of those emails.
Good.
It was nice to get an email not saying your kid did
Yes.
this.
See the power of the positive.
So it was good for my son as well,
Yes.
obviously, to kind of like bring
That's
him
just
up
it.
as well. So he kind of
Yeah.
like got, I thought it was really, really cool to kind of see that.
Some of my most successful stories I would tell people as an administrator started with maybe a really difficult situation and me finding the slightest little thing to just call and say something positive, and it just completely changed that dynamic. With the parent, guardian, and the kids. Parent workshop, so this is something I'm looking at, like what is the need? And this is part of what we'll talk about like at the BLT. So what types of workshops do we need? I know we do some things about financial aid for families, we invite them. FAFSA is the big thing right now, DREAM Act, that post-secondary financial aid, what we're talking about. And the WAG is what I'm really using as a source of resources too. I'm trying to train everybody to go to that for the information. You just heard from the counseling center, so I'm actually going to skip that for now. Professional culture. Okay, so that engagement continuum that we saw here, I have it right here. Our learning as adults is centered around that engagement continuum. Engagement, equity, and empowerment are the 3 E's. So what we've been doing in those teaching and learning meetings up here at the high school is I've been giving the staff this continuum, and I've been asking them to work as a team to come up with their examples of what they feel. So for example, disrupting. So as an adult, how are you learning really is what the focus is, right? So they would give an example, I'm disrupting by, maybe I'm disseminating wrong information. And it doesn't mean that they're actually doing this, by the way. It just means that these are the examples. And then asking them, how are you driving your engagement forward, right? So if we are at a teaching and learning meeting, are you on your cell phone not paying attention? That's not driving, right? Are you withdrawing, that type of thing. So everything that we're asking our teachers to do with students and the expectation for engagement in the conversation, we're also expecting from our adult learners too. Let's see here, where are we? Almost done, I promise. Student voice, BLT members, and the 5-minute conversation. So like, it's the power of these 5-minute conversations that I'm having with students, faculty, staff, it doesn't matter who it is. But I learned so much just by stopping for a second, checking in, asking how your day was. So much so that I actually have students that I've done that with before actually stop and do the same thing for me. So just kind of checking in with each other, learning, and just, again, those 5 minutes sometimes becomes, it's how I learned about like those restorative circles happening. It's pretty cool. And then learning walks. I experienced my first learning walk with Mrs. Churchill. We went through certain classrooms. You don't always get to see the great stuff, right? That's actually happening during the day in the building. So it was really great to kind of go through, see what a learning walk looks like, feels like. And I'm hoping there's more of those. Restorative practices. So again, the same thing that we're expecting our staff to do, I'm modeling in our teaching and learning meeting. So we started our last teaching and learning meeting with a circle. We did a check-in and I made Dr. G, Dr. Ersick participate when they entered. They were totally on the spot. And the question, it was just a simple check-in. It was, so how are you coming into this meeting and what weather word would you use to describe it? Who was stormy? Somebody said tsunami. I was like, stay away from them. It wasn't one of these two. And attendance circles, what you heard me say. Okay, last slide. All right, so safety. So for me, there's a couple things that really stand out for me as far as safety goes, and there's always room for improvement here. Thank you. So the secondary safety committee, so this is something I spoke with Mrs. Vale about, and this is something that I feel like we needed a committee up here just to hear from everybody. Everybody's got their eyes on the floor, so what's going on around us, where are the areas that we need to improve, and with that is, it's everybody, custodial, cafeteria, faculty, staff, teachers, administrators. Additional walkthroughs by the security guard, so I recently just changed the schedule around, so we actually have him doing multiple walks throughout the building. Our SRO, Travis Winchell, is always doing, he's throughout the building all day long. We just held our first custodial worker meeting and monitor meeting, and these 2 meetings were very crucial for me because I often feel that they might be left out of the actual, practicing of drills, but also the idea behind safety. So I reviewed our New York State shell, how it outlines the drills and the protocols. We actually met as a group, we went through it. I asked who participated, who needed to. So working again with Director of Facilities, Mr. Prince, and we're pulling together another time to make sure that everybody's actually gone through, practice those drills. And then we're just continuously improving. So every time we think we're in a good place, I think it's best to go back, revisit, review, revise, and kind of make improvements. And I already have a couple in mind, so it's just a matter of getting them done. I've spoken way too long. So, questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we hit them all as you went.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Yeah, the one thing if you could do is, I'm fortunate that they left. Pass along the great job to the board that they did. That presentation, they were spot on. So thank you.
Great, I will. Thank you.
Your skirt, I think it's actually technically tape.
Okay, we have, next up we have Dr. Ersick with a very specific miscellaneous items.
Yeah. This is it.
You left the
Yeah.
door open, whatever
apologize, that screen is not presenting, so I will, nah, it's all right. Okay, so, right, we read our vision statement to become a beacon of educational excellence where all students reach their potential. Right, I think we saw some excellent examples today in our choir, musical, our students presenting here. Here are some additional examples. So these, I just want to take a moment to recognize and celebrate the success of our young professionals who recently completed in the Skills USA regional competition. They represented Saugerties as well as Ulster BOCES with incredible skill, determination, and professionalism. We couldn't be prouder of their accomplishments. Skills USA is more than just a competition. It's an opportunity for students to put their technical skills, leadership, and work ethic to the test in real-world scenarios. These events allow them to showcase their talents across a variety of trade, technical, and leadership fields, and they certainly rose to the challenge. Many of these outstanding professionals have earned the opportunity to advance to the Skills USA state competition on April 25th at the New York State Fairgrounds in Syracuse. It's an exciting step for them, and we can't wait to see what they accomplished. So we actually had several students. I'll just read them off and where their place. So Ian Vickery placed first in the CNC milling programming division, I guess I'll call it. Caitlin Cafferty placed first in the culinary arts. Rayleigh Owen placed first in t-shirt design. Kendra Bell placed second in cosmetology quiz bowl. Alexandra Landa placed second in cosmetology quiz bowl as well. Thomas Rutledge second place in internet working. And Annalise Garcia third place in the cosmetology senior. So individuals in first and second will be going to the state competition. Wow. So it's amazing there. That's just, the names are just right. Briefly want to go through a couple things. So the budgeting process, governor's proposals, as well as New York State laws that have been enacted, how it's going to affect the budget, as well as update on capital projects. So budgeting process. So we have been working diligently on this. So in the budgeting process, these are kind of things that we're taking into account, right? So one first and foremost is our blueprint, right? This is our statement document of our values. How are we going to support our blueprint moving forward? And you've heard some excellent examples tonight about the work that's been done towards the blueprint. We met with our building administrators to go over budgets, right? So for departments, staff, as well as enrollments and what we need to do to accommodate that as well. We met with our department administrators. So for instance, for special education, we went through and every child who's got an IEP, what services they will need, and we're costing everything out. What program are they going to be into? We have several students who are home on a home tutoring pending placement, right? Where do we anticipate them going so that we can plan accordingly for the next school year? That was a riveting time, right, Jamie? Initial service requests. So just on Monday, we met with Ulster BOCES and the Mid-Hudson RIC to go through line by line all the services that we purchased through Ulster BOCES and the RIC. So this includes special ed placements. This includes our Infinite Campus software, right? It's all those things that we get through BOCES as well as the RIC. And going forward. So each line, it's what do we get for this, right? Are we taking advantage of it? And then I always ask, right, the question, are there things that we should be considering? So are other districts doing something that we're not? Or are we doing something that other districts are not, right? To see how we can improve for that. We did have that meeting on Monday. They have to go through and update the numbers and then share that, and then eventually they'll share that with us so we get the actual dollar amount as to where things are. Anticipated insurance rates. So we've been told from DHEC that we can expect somewhere between a 6 to 10% increase in the insurance rates. I mentioned we were talking about staffing, right? So that talks about enrollment, class sizes there. Preliminary tax cap calculations. So just on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, the New York State released a tax cap kind of calculator, I'll call it. So we're going through putting in the calculations. We anticipate, this is a rough preliminary I'm going to say preliminary 5 more times, right? Preliminarily, we would expect a potential tax levy of 1.5 million increase from where we are now, right? That's just preliminary. We still have to go through and make sure all the numbers are correct and everything, work everything out. The one notable thing is, right, the growth adjustment, right? CPI, the state tells us is 2.95, which is way down from prior years. But that's where the 2% tax cap comes from. It's the lesser of 2% or CPI. So we'll be using 2% in our calculations. Contracts. So we also go through contracts, right, in terms of lease agreements, right? So what is our revenue coming in, but then what are we also expensing out, and do we need to do anything? So I write UPK. So we have a UPK provider. They have expressed interest in continuing. So we're working with our attorneys and them to sign a new contract to get that going. Transportation. The recommendation from our transportation audit was to go out for an RFP for specialized transportation. So our attorney just emailed me back a rough draft of that on Monday, so we'll be going for that to go out for an RFP. So those are all kind of things that we need to take into consideration, as well as our current existing contracts. TRS, we just got an email the past day or two, I think, was it today maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, maybe yesterday. The TRS rate is going from 10.11% down to 9.59%, which sounds good, right? We're going to be saving money. But at the same time, salaries increase, right? So it's going to eat up, kind of, the increase will eat up the savings in a sense. So because it's a lower percent, right, yes, it's positive, but it's not, will not be having a drastic effect. TRS rate is for any certificated staff member. So that's teaching assistants, teachers, administrators, for the pension fund, New York State Pension Fund. Okay. This slide is the governor's proposed calculations for our state aid. All right. This is just the governor's proposed. The legislatures will have their one House bill, and then ultimately they'll have to come to an agreement as to what exactly it will be. The deadline is April 1st. We'll see if they will do that. So foundation aid, it was 17.4. The governor's run has 17.8 million. This is due to two factors. So it's changing the way that the poverty levers are calculated. So the current existing formula was based on poverty from 2000. They have changed it to incorporate other state and federal programs that individuals benefit from. All right. There was also another change in terms of the way that they calculate need in the area. I'm going to read this one so I don't mess this one up. All right. This is called the the SAIP represents the share of students from a household below the poverty level based on students' residential location within a geographical school district. Updates are based on the American Community Survey, a continuous household survey conducted monthly by the Census Bureau. So it's a way of assessing poverty, okay? So last year, we were in Save Harmless, and we were actually scheduled to lose money if Save Harmless wasn't enacted. So what this is telling me is that this recommendation actually came from the Rockefeller Institute's report, right? Is showing that Saugerties demographics have changed, right, significantly. While our enrollment has gone down, they recognize that the need in our area has gone up, okay? Now, with the foundation aid, generally it doesn't usually go below the governor's proposal from what I'm told historically, right? It's usually that starting point, so it could go up. I'm not overly optimistic, but I do not believe it will go down. I think this is a good starting point for us going forward, okay? Next, I'm going to put out the transportation, including summer. So it goes from 2.6 to 2.5 million, so a decrease. So this is something that we're going to be looking into to make sure that the numbers that they're using are the correct numbers. So this is legwork on our part to verify. BOCES aid. BOCES aid went from 2.3 million to 2.1 million, a decrease of 6%, right? This is another thing where we asked BOCES on Monday, how could this be, right? We need your help to kind of examine this and see if something is incorrect in the data reporting. High cost, these are all expense-based, software aid, library media, textbook, hardware technology, universal pre-K. As Dr. Timms pointed out last time, they lump universal pre-K aid into the state runs, but it's very misleading because the $762,000 that we do qualify for would be if we had 130 kids and 130 seats in the program. We only have seats for 80, and we do not have 80 students, I believe, at this moment. All right, so taking out pre-K, it's also the money is kept separate too. We would see an increase of about $300,000 based on this. Okay, but this is all preliminary, right? It all depends on what the governor and the legislature agree to.
What's public EC high cost aid?
Public excess high cost aid. Jamie, do you want to describe it? That? You want me to?
Mostly for our students who
get, is that the one that's in district as well? There's one that I like put together a spreadsheet once where like, for example, let's say we have a program here that's a 12-1-2, but it only has 3 kids in it. Those students are all high-cost students because we pay above that threshold per student in that setting, and then we can apply for it on those students. Or if they have a 1-to-1.
So they're reducing that according to some calculation.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, because that could be a reduction of we don't have as many students with AIDS or whatever we kind of.
Yeah, so that's based on expenses.
Right, so not necessarily, we're just getting less money.
We're getting less money, but we also spend less.
We're spending less, right?
Right, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
But, right, so it's kids in those programs, there might be students who receive multiple supports, right, so they could receive speech services, they could receive visually impaired services, so all those things.
We try to not include, like, if we bill Medicaid, we can't include those people towards that value. But we do, wherever we can, we try to add it all up and make sure that we're getting every possible penny we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right, governor's proposals and New York State laws. So in the governor's budget proposal, there was a ban for smartphones, but also smartwatches, so any electronic device that was not provided by the school district. They would have to be stored. There is funding, $13.5 million for that. This has to go through the budget process. So after the budget, through the budget process, they'll kind of fine tune what the language is. So we actually had this conversation again in policy in terms of that. Just as a FYI, I did contact Yonder Pouch to kind of see what it would cost for the high school campus. So to get pouches for the high school campus would be about $45,000. Okay, just to kind of frame of reference, $45,000 in terms of individuals, right, would be a teacher's aide with individual health insurance. Just kind of perspective for that. Okay.
While it says proposed 13.5 million, there's no guidance on how that would be divvied up, like what we would get as a district. We'd have no idea.
Or if it even
Correct.
makes it past the final budget.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying if it was approved,
Yes.
there's no formula yet to say Saugerties would get X.
Right, so we don't even know if we would get the whole amount, 50%, if we'd even qualify. There might be something about, income wealth ratio and all that stuff, so yes. So that will all kind of be hammered out, so that's going to be obviously impact the budget somehow. Room temperature, so there was a law passed that if the room temperature is 82 degrees, you have to take proactive measures to reduce the temperature, which could be opening windows, turning off lights, turning off the computer, right, all those things. You have to measure the classroom 3 feet above the floor in the center of the room.
Shade. In the shade.
And then at 88 degrees, the room is not supposed to be occupied, okay? The rumor is that this language may get softened and say like 88 degrees where it cannot be occupied where practicable, right? So some of the concerns that I've heard would be, we could be sending students home to a house that is 90 degrees, 100 degrees, right? So where is that? So this definitely will have an impact on our building, particularly as we learned from last year. Well, anybody who works in the building knows, but the 600 wing even here in the high school gets extremely hot in the springtime. Electric buses. So while we do not own our fleet, right, new buses have to be electric, being purchased in 2027, and then 2035, all buses must be electric, right? So this will impact us in future years going out in terms of our transportation.
Has there been any discussion in regards to that? Because I know in the construction world, like there's been stuff's kind of pushed back because we don't have the infrastructure for it. I don't know if that's been any rumblings.
Yeah, so when we met with legislators, they all kind of recognize it. They all, the people we met with, right, who are in our local area, seem to be very understanding of all of our concerns. But how that translates to Albany and the grand scheme of things, not sure.
Did we have any more feedback, or did we have to provide any more information? I believe it was when we were at Cahill. The gentleman came and spoke to us being part of a grant.
Yes.
That we helped them. And that progress anything, or do we have any update on that?
They got the approval from Central Hudson to sign off on it. I'm pretty sure the application was submitted, but I'm still waiting for the transportation study information as well as any additional. I can follow up with that as well.
And that was for student?
That was for student, yes. Okay. All right. Other things just kind of impacting budget decisions as well as our students would be the New York State Literacy Initiative. As Dr. G has shared in the past, every school is going to have to verify that their curriculum Is science of reading aligned? So we have to constantly refine what we're doing and review. Graduation measures, right? So moving from 3 diplomas to 1, this is going to be more of a phased-in thing, right? But at the same time, right, we're moving towards more authentic experiences. So how does that translate to the classroom? What kind of professional development do we need? What kind of support do our teachers need to make sure that we're moving in the right direction? Okay. Graduation measures. The big thing this year, just to kind of throw it out there, is that the waiver for Regents exams, for the June exams, New York State has said that at the March Board of Regents meeting, there should be a proposal with a process to get a waiver for any major life circumstance. So there should be some kind of paper documentation that goes with it, and ultimately I'm told I'm going to have to sign off on it. So we'll hear from that. The remaining stuff we presented on last time, but we'll skip that. Just capital project updates. Bishopsgate, so the comment period is over, the 60-day comment period. I did not receive any positive or negative comments towards it, so we're going to proceed with it. I do have to have a call scheduled with Tetra Tech for the next steps, which would be the transportation study and start to design it. There will be a resolution before the board to expense money to go ahead and do those things. About that. Morris spend down. So as part of the current $22 million capital project, we do have about $700,000 of money that is not spent. So we would like to spend that money at Morris Elementary School. We have chosen Morris because it's actually receiving aid already. We applied for an early aid payment, or early aid starter request. So with that money, we would like to address the playground area. So rip it up, fix some material and pave it. The first part of the loop going into the building, if you drive through there, there's like big potholes, I'm pretty sure. So that would be the kind of the base bid for that. And then alternate bids would be the road to Buffalo Road over here, and then a walkway from the back parking lot to the back building, to the back door. And we're also hoping to being able to expand, maybe put 5 or so more parking spots out front. Now, this work was all already designed in the original scope that got approved by New York State, so it's not like an additional approval process. That's also why these were chosen, to reduce that backlog in New York State. For this work to continue, there is a resolution tonight with Tetra Tech so that they can kind of plan and oversee this part of the scope of work as well. And then just as a note, our fire alarm work has begun at Cahill. Seems to be going well so far, so we'll kind of give updates as to progress on that.
And just for clarity on the more stuff for people who may listen or listen to it, this is not new money. We're not spending additional money, right? This is money that was already approved in the capital project.
Correct.
We're just.
So, in the other way of saying that is we came under budget with the previous work, so we've got some money left to spend that can only be spent on capital project items.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Wait, can I just say,
Yeah.
when you say the playground area, you're going to pave the playground? We're talking about.
No, the blacktop there.
Yeah, I was just going to
Yeah.
be
No.
clear about that, we're not paving.
I don't want to deal with cut knees. So since you brought up the playground area, so we met with Chris, principal at Morris, and so her student council is actually going to design what they want out there. So they were kind of in the works on this already. So I have that design. I had to share it with Tetra Tech so that they could kind of loosely put it out there so we can get it out to bid for the painting of the lines. But one of the things I thought was really cool is like a human chutes and ladders board.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So. All right, that is it. I think, yep.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ursic.
Yeah.
Board member remarks. Go around, get Michael. Sakina?
No.
Yes. Dr. Hans?
Yeah, I just want to thank Richie Prince for helping make this happen. I sent Dan a photo of an idea made out of graph paper, and he sent it on to Richie Kane, and this is this beautiful setup that it just feels different, like being able to see people peripherally is great. I want to also, the singers aren't here, but the amazing music teachers, and really it just makes me realize, every time I hear something like that or I see amazing artwork, art really just saves lives. I mean, it's tremendous that we have such a strong music program. And sort of related to that, I want to invite Jello Jamboree, February 22nd, 5 to 8 p.m. Jello sculptures, it's for all ages in the Fuller Building in Kingston. It's really supporting some great arts programming down there. I signed up for the Cahill Reader thing. I'm very excited, February 28th. And so when you were talking about the tours, the 6th grade tours, I thought that might be a nice way, because one of the things we've been thinking about and talking about is how can we be, as board members, be in the school in a meaningful way, right, for us and for, you know, to just sort of know. And I sort of thought the 6th grade tours would be great to have like 1 or 2 board members go on a tour of the junior high with the 6th graders. I thought that would be sort of interesting. Anyway, really, really happy about hearing about apprenticeships and internships. So one of the people actually in the video was saying that she's an apprentice there and being able to take classes, and I just, the more we can hear about that, and it's such a great reflection also of this ethos of sort of practice-based projects for everybody, and that it's great to hear student involvement and voice. And and then in terms of internships, there's the Ulster County Climate Corps has summer internships. Those are open February 3rd. It's a rolling acceptance. Interviews will be after March 1st. They run from June 9th to August 15th. They're for students over 16, and they pay $18 an hour. And what's really nice is the internships are really across the board of skills like lesson planning, graphic design, talking to people, you know, thinking about things. So anyway, that's out there, and you can, if you Google Ulster County Climate Corps, you'll find it. And that's all. And I'm going to be at the Music Man on one of those days.
Good.
Yeah.
Ms. Kelly?
Just quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if that's on. It might be on. Okay. I just wanted to thank our high school chorus tonight. They sing just so beautifully. I mean, it's amazing, and that has always been such a great program. Congratulations to our Science Olympiads, and I want to thank the students that came and presented tonight their project. I mean, that's amazing. And we know that students learn best when they have authentic learning experiences. So, you know, and a couple of them were former students that I know from Mount Marion as well as Riccardi. So that's amazing. And I also want to give a little shout out to Savannah Tittleback, who got her 100th win. Savannah is also a former student that I had the pleasure of working with, and I'm so proud of her. So I just wanted to give her a little shout out. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Wells? Yep. Mr. Wall?
Thank you. Just a few things, yes, and obviously thank you to the students. Thank you, Ms. Molyneux, for your presentation. Thank you to our high school choral students. I agree with Dr. Haas. The music moves you, and that was quite incredible to have that up close and in front. So very appreciative. And again, the students that participated in visiting Elna, Magnetics, huge work going on there. It's great to see some synergy, you know, taking place with regard to, you know, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to aspire to. I just want to share that as a board member, I myself, in thinking about things like the EV, you mentioned the EV buses, a number of these other types of issues that are of great import to schools in New York State. The governor's proposal regarding cell phones being another example. I am going to be attending the lobbying activities tomorrow for New York State School Boards Association in the Capitol, and so, you know, hopefully we'll be meeting and speaking with some of those representatives that Dr. Ursig mentioned, reiterating some of those things that they have already heard, and possibly even imploring them to have a little more than an appreciation for what we're going through. That's certainly my hope. Although appreciation is a nice place to start, it doesn't pay the bills. I just want to remind our public, because this is important, I think, you know, as a board member, so Dr. Ursig mentioned the budget process. It is beginning. There are opportunities for people to participate. This board is taking steps, you know, collectively. You know, thank you for moving up the public comment session, but Again, you know, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to try to find ways to create access for our community. I think the budget process is one of the biggest areas where we want to see people access the process and begin to have conversations with us. And simply along the similar lines, I want to just make sure people are aware and are thinking about, because this is our February meeting, and that means the next meeting is March. That's all obvious to everyone, but a few more months down the road and we have board elections. So just be aware that, you know, the life of a school district, you know, it is cyclical. So if there are people out there that are having conversations, recognize that. Again, we're done with February. By April, petitions for board seats would be due. And an election, not only for our budget, but also for board members, would be happening again in May. So things to pay attention to. Things to pay attention to. Thank you.
All right, just real quick, and everybody has thanked the four young gentlemen who presented. So I just want to thank a couple other people around that. One, Ms. Hayes, who was pulled into that process late in the game and sort of given some timelines and deadlines that were extraordinary. And by what we witnessed tonight, you hit them, so thank you. I know that doesn't seem not long ago you were pulled into the conference room in the middle of the day there. Also, the two gentlemen he mentioned, they kept saying Mr. Ferraro, Mr. Ferraro. That's Jimmy Ferraro and Joe Ferraro, but also Rich Croce from Viking Industries. I think we started these meetings back in September with the Council of Industry, who was really the driver behind all this, and the asking of, hey, we need people. We don't have access to people who can work, and we have a shortage. And we're not looking for special skills. We'll train them. We're just looking for people who can show up on time and want a job. And what they, everybody who said, when you look at, Elma is less than probably 2 miles down the road on Malvern Turnpike, but nobody knows about it. And I know the day we got to tour the facility, it's pretty amazing. So I want to thank those two gentlemen for kind of being the starters of this and even asking for it, because without them, we would not be where we are to even kind of pursue that. So it's amazing to see from September to now actually seeing results. So thank you, and thank you, Ms. Molno, for kind of leading the charge with your team. The budget is, Mr. Ball mentioned a few things. Dr. Urshig went through a lot. People have been asking me, like, what can they do to understand the budget and be involved? So a couple of things, and this is to people who are listening or will listen to the video, is understand the big buckets. So understand the things that are big in the budget: transportation, personnel, the other components of it. The budget is a myriad of line items, but there are a few things that swing the pendulum. The other thing, and the thing that I found last year as people questioned, and people this year were starting to ask me again, is understand the things that we actually have impact on, that we can actually move the dial with. There are some very large things in the budget that we have no say over. We can't move them, whether they be contractual, like transportation, or things within a teacher's contract and things like that. Those are things that are going to show up, and they say, well, why can't you cut them? We have no say in those. So when you actually educate yourself, educate on what we have control of and what those big buckets are, right? And then I encourage people to come to the meetings and talk about it as opposed to other forums. And I think we have to have some discussions this year around how we are going to better go out to the community as opposed to just these meetings here, and how we're going to get out to the community. And there have been organizations who have offered to host us in a budget discussion and get people out there. So we'll be looking at those kind of things. And then I know, because our next meeting will have occurred either right around it, but I'll be the third or fourth person to say the Music Man. It's March 7th, 8th, and 9th. And the effort that goes into that can't be minimized by the team that does it, and then but also our students. Our students are here every day right now. I think they started back just before Christmas till 5 o'clock at night every day, going at it. So they're putting in the work, and if this year's thing is any resemblance to what last year's was, which I believe was Les Miserables last year, which was incredible, this year should be just as good. So it's Dr. Haas music and arts are the key to a lot of things as we heard. It was great to hear. It was great to hear the Star Spangled Banner, but I think it was more impactful for me to hear the students step forward and say what it means to them individually, what they're doing. So, and I remember a couple of those kids last year actually got up and spoke to us about asking for music and arts in the budget, and especially Mr. McTeague. I remember him specifically coming to talk to us. So that's it. Thank you. Moving on. Personnel. Item J, we have some consent items here. J 1 through 3, which are resignations, a couple of leaves of absence, and then a bunch of appointments around clubs, and then other teachers' assistants and things like that. Do I have a motion to approve J 1 through 3?
So moved.
Take Mr. Ball as the first and Ms. Kelder as the second. Any discussion on any of these items?
I just want to make one comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you take a look closely, and again, I know all the board members do, but we have 4 people in personnel that are resigning that began working for our district in some relative minor or part-time capacity. And then subsequently, 2 more items down the agenda, they have found, and we have found, an opportunity where they will meet our needs, right? So in other words, we're doing, and what the district is doing is finding good people, identifying good people, and then finding a way to keep them, and finding a way to strategize opportunities for them to remain in the district and work in the district, and also grow their skill set. And that's what I see from looking at an agenda when I see 4 people in resignations, and the same 4 people being appointed to new positions. It's a positive thing from where I sit from an HR perspective, and I applaud and hope the district continues to find ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to business office recommendations. We have K 1 through 7, which is a treasurer's report, revenue and appropriation status report, extra classroom statements and cash receipts, the internal claims audit report, tax refunds resolution, educational data services, and then the budget transfers. Do I have a motion for that? Ms. Bellarosa, second. Mr. Wells, any discussion?
I have a question.
Question, okay?
It's been asked before, sorry.
No, you go, Mr. Wall.
So, it's been asked before, I know Dr. Ursig, but I just want to ask again for extracurricular classroom funds.
Yeah.
Is there an imperative and direction that some of these need to be spent down?
Yeah, so that came out of our audit that we had. Part of it is also we're going to be providing training to all our treasurers and advisors as well. There are some historical ones, like their French club. They have their historic French club flea market, which brings in a lot of money. They don't necessarily spend it at all.
Yeah.
So yes.
So I appreciate that, and again, just for the sake of, I do ask the question, because some of them have a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
And, it's money that's derived from fundraisers, which are de facto taxes, okay, in a lot of respects, right? The volume of money that's sitting there really is taxpayer money, in a sense, in the form of goodwill. And so how is that manifested in our school community, and how do the taxpayers know and see that?
Right.
It's important, and it's not that we don't do things, right? They do see that our groups are doing things, but if you can do $10,000 more things, okay, and still have revenue coming in every year, and still, have the ability to conduct your activities, I think that's I think it's a statement to the community that has supported you and helped you arrive at some of those amazing figures.
Yes. Some of that too is we're talking with Ms. Molyneux too about refining the fundraising process, right? To make sure that there's a purpose, there's an intent for fundraising, and it's not fundraising just to fundraise to bank money for something, right? It should be very specific.
Thank you. Dr. Haas, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a question about, for the club money, what happens to 2024? So they graduated, the class of 2024 has money,
So
but they are all gone.
So that money will be going.
So what happens to that money?
Should be going to the student government account.
Yes, they usually donate it to student government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sort of curious.
Anybody else, any other questions on that stuff? No? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. L. Which are board action items 1 through 7. Mr. Ball, second. By Ms. Bellerosa. Any discussion or questions?
Step out here again and just say that I'd like to thank Meredith Mills again. I know I thanked her previously for being our student rep. The policy recommendation here, it's a first reading. There was some discussion. Essentially, this policy creates a student ex officio board member based on Governor Hochul's decision. This new law repeals the voter approval requirement, and that simply means this: we were way ahead of the curve, right? We were way ahead of the curve, and we're creating this policy as a means to satisfy the new mandate. It's encouraging to see that happen, and I want to again thank Meredith and thank any future students that find their way to wanting to be a part of this.
Dr. Haas?
What does the ESY stand for in special ed?
Extended school year?
Extended school year. And then when a program is listed twice, so, and when it says program in board, I'm assuming that's the services that they're getting, right? Occupational therapy, physical therapy. So,
Program would be, right, with their educational services.
so, but when it's listed
related
twice,
services.
when it's listed multiple times for somebody who's in high school, I can understand that because they're in multiple classes. But for somebody in elementary school, and it says, see, I was looking at that. It's under program, and I just didn't understand it.
Is it on your agenda?
It is, it's in the backup. It says recommended program, and it'll say special class, special class, special class, special class.
It probably because.
Or it'll say occupational therapy twice, or, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, we can answer this.
Yeah, sorry.
Out of the meeting, but it
Yeah.
might be because it might be special class for math, special class for ELA, special class for social studies, special
Right,
class.
so a student, we have to calculate their time out of a regular classroom based, like if they're in special classes settings that are only with special education students.
Okay.
So we break it down so that like if maybe they integrate for a certain subject, then we don't include that subject on their IEP, and then we know that they're integrated in
Okay,
that
so if
setting.
it says special, if it says speech language twice,
Yeah,
it's
because you
because they're
could
having
have
that in two different
individual,
places.
Right, that
and
could
you
also
have
be-
groups. They have to be
Right.
listed separately if it was like occupational therapy group, and then you also got individual.
Okay, I was just curious, yeah.
You good?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion on this stuff? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Board discussion item, moving on. New York State guidance on safeguarding the rights of immigrant students. Following NYSBA's recommendation of board discussion items, I'm going to ask the superintendent to give us an overview of what we are doing as a district and where we are positioned right now, and then we can open it up to the board.
Sure. So just a little bit of background. So in 2011, the Department of Homeland Security issued a policy refraining U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement from entering and engaging immigration arrests in what were deemed protected or sensitive areas, right? Schools were part of those areas. That was expanded in 2021, but under the current administration, that memo has been rescinded or eliminated from it. That does not mean, though, however, that immigration agents have unfettered access to our buildings and to our students. So New York State does have some of the strictest laws about this. So there's also, in terms of a couple things. So one is we have an obligation as a district to provide education to anyone who's between ages 5 and 21 who reside within our boundaries. As part of that, they just have to show proof of age and proof of residency. So nowhere along the lines does it ask about immigration status for that. So our goal every day is to provide the best instruction we can to the students who walk through our doors. Also, in addition to that, there's also privacy guidelines in terms of FERPA, which limits what information can be shared with anybody, right? So, an oversimplified summary is that parents, in the vast majority of circumstances, need to get permission to share information to other individuals. So, in terms of what we are doing to address this, a couple things. One, it is, quite frankly, doing what the expectation has always been, right? So if somebody were to call the building and ask for a student or child, we should not be providing any information to that student unless they're listed as the primary guardian, right? Even if an emergency contact calls, we really shouldn't be answering that. We should really just be talking to the parents or those who are listed as guardians. That's number one. Number two, when people come to the building, right, and ask questions or want to see students, even if it was a CPS worker or, sometimes a lawyer might have to come to talk to a child based on, parental something going on, right? It's no, we need to see that you have authorization. It needs to come to my office and goes to our attorneys to get approval for that things to happen, right? So yes, this is a different context, but the same policies and practices should apply. When somebody comes to the building, right, there we have our secure vestibules. They should be waiting there, their IDs scanned, right? If they have to state their purpose as to why they're there. If anything is, I'll use for lack of a better term, funny, right, just being oversimplified, right, that all comes to me and I determine if the person can enter the building and for what purpose, for what purpose, if at all. Obviously, with the focus on immigration, right, my directive to staff has been, yes, there are judicial warrants as well as administrative warrants. I don't want them to get bogged down in the difference, and it is not their responsibility to decipher it, right? If somebody presents me with a document, it comes to me, I share it with the attorneys, and I make the decision as to what would happen. This is one of the things that I've learned, in attending safety trainings, is how do we make things as simplistic as possible? Because in a moment of crisis, right, you don't want to go be processing 95 things. It's just no. Superintendent says he has to give his approval for it. To spread this message out, I have sent several messages to our district-wide staff in terms of the expectations. And as I put it in the email, the simplified answer is, right, I need to get permission from my superintendent. No, I need to get permission from my superintendent. So we've done that. We have also sent a letter to the community on Friday, kind of reinforcing those things. We also shared the New York State guidance with this. I have also sent emails to our bus companies, right, to inform our drivers who are not our employees what the expectation is, right? Same thing. No, I need to contact the superintendent, as well as contact dispatch to get to us. I've had conversations with our organization that provides our security in all of our buildings to share the expectations with them, as well as having our administrators personally tell them what the expectations are for those. We've had a couple of meetings with our administration, kind of re-emphasizing those points and addressing that. Also, we have met with legislators through our Ulster County School Board Association to express our concerns. Dr. G and I met with representatives from Senator Schumer's office to express our concerns, obviously. They're in line with us, but just to reiterate, these are, how it's impacting us as a community. And I will also say that I did have a conversation with our police department chief. I won't get into specifics. We do have an understanding about that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Last time I started here, I'll start here. Anybody have anything else to add? Mr. Wall? Mr. Wells? Dr. House?
So sorry.
No worries. This is my first time using the mic. I wanted to know, so under FERPA, this, somebody can ask for the directory of the district. And parents can opt out of having their information included in the directory. And so I looked for that sort of in our policies, so that we do have a student records access and challenge policy that seems like that might be where that goes. Or a student records policy. And there's no mention of opting out of the directory. I also, reading the policy, and this is just sort of because we're talking about FERPA, because FERPA is the law that we're sort of using to say that the students have privacy. It says in the policy, it says, additionally, FERPA does not prohibit a school official from disclosing information about a student if the information is obtained through the school official's personal knowledge or observation and not from the student's education records. And so I think that maybe we could look at these policies, just the student records policy and, I want to thank you, Dan, for being responsive and being strong and clear about this, because I think that it matters as much as any, real direct threat. It matters to know where you stand and the district stands.
You good?
Yeah, I'm done, thank you.
Yep, scan. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I guess
on
so.
the video, yeah, on the recording, if you could.
Hello?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Great. So a few weeks back, we were contacted by a community group that wanted the board to consider putting forth a resolution affirming just about everything that Dan just said right now, but wanted us to consider something that had been done in other school districts where the boards considered putting out a public resolution. According to NISBA, the resolutions process is an opportunity for school boards to establish the positions and beliefs of the organization. And so I would like to consider it. I have some sample language from another district that I can forward via email to the rest of the board.
It's also my understanding that Onteora just reaffirmed their resolution this past Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the language that I have, yes.
Ms. Delarosa? Ms. Knoll? Okay. All right. All right. And committee reports. Audit. By the way, Dr. House, thank you for setting up that meeting we had today. Yes, we can hear about it. The aid.
Oh, great, yeah. So,
That's good.
is this on? Okay, thank you. We have our next audit committee on Monday, February 24th at 4:30. So that's upcoming. The things that we'll be talking about or discussed at that meeting is we'll be meeting with the claims auditor, our audit charter, audit committee charter, Meg was mentioned that we should be meeting with that person twice a year. So we met them in September. She'll be coming to our meeting in February. We also, as part of our charter, are supposed to do an audit committee self-assessment. So we will be looking at that at that meeting. We have an external auditor whose contract may be coming up, so we should be maybe starting discussions about a requirement for an RFP on that. And then today, we met, a couple of us met with this NISBA representative talking about a school aid specialist consultant group who looks at a look back at state aid that the district receives and does a review of that and to see whether there's anything that we can do to maximize that aid based on the data that is put into systems for state reporting. And so we met with them and talked about that today. And so we'll talk about that at the audit committee as well, with probably the anticipation that we would probably engage them and have that contract for approval at the board in March, where they would do that work after budget season, because it's a look back of prior years' state aid money, so that we're not disruptive of the budget process. But overall, just it seems to be a win-win. They don't get paid unless they find us money. And if they don't find us money, then it's kudos that we're doing everything that we possibly can to get the maximum amount of state aid. So it seemed like a very positive thing to engage them for. So that's the audit committee report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. What I heard today when we went through it, it really resonated, Ms. Churchill, when you were going through and said, you know, when we go, we try and account for everything, and to have somebody else come in and put another lens on and make sure you count every student correctly and everything, it just seemed like and like they said, it's, if they don't find whatever money they find, they get a portion of it in the first year, and then the next year it's 100% ours. So it just seemed like but as Christine said, we'll have more information and go over it with everybody, but it just seemed like a no-brainer, of one of the services they offer to take advantage of. Facilities, anything additional than what you went through on the other thing, right? I think you did the other things in your presentation. Same thing with policy, Mr. Wall, anything to add to the couple of things we had on here?
No, everything's been discussed, Mr. Riazzi. We know that cell phones are an issue. We're waiting for some advisory information from our attorneys, similar to, when we get information regarding any updated policy.
Okay, and we'll make sure, we'll look at putting on the agenda for next month, the FERPA, looking at that, the opt-out. And we'll look at those policies. We'll have those on the
Records
agenda.
policy will add to the agenda.
Add to the agenda. All right, perfect. Yeah, see if there's anybody back here who's gonna be up for recognition. All right, thank you. On those, so the next is the second public recognition, and this, I talked about in the first one, this can be any topic. It doesn't have to be an agenda topic that somebody wants to talk about. Okay. Next is proposed executive session. So we're gonna have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second, okay. Changing it up a little bit too. This is so you know, so the Board of Education of Saugerties Central School will hereby recess into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters possibly leading to the employment of a particular person and collective bargaining negotiations involving the CESA and ASPA unions. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right. And just for the record, when we come out of executive session, I don't believe there'd be any additional business, and we'll look to adjourn the meeting after that. We'll go back to the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Motion to reconvene to open session.
All in favor?
Dr. Wells, you taking notes?
Dr. Wells. Oh, shoot.
You gotta write this down, man. Virginia.
One job.
One job and you're packing up, man. You're packing up here.
He was home already.
He was. Mr. Wells was the
9:34.
first, and Mr. Ball seconded. Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kelder, Mr. Wells second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry if anybody wanted.